Right now, somewhere on this planet, the most dangerous animal alive is walking around completely unnoticed. It does not have claws, it does not have fangs, it cannot outrun almost anything it hunts. And yet, every other species on Earth has learned, over thousands of years, to fear it more than any predator alive. That animal is you. Let us start with the obvious question. Why? Humans are slow. A cheetah is more than 3 times faster than the fastest human who ever lived. A lion can kill us in seconds. A crocodile barely has to try. So how did the slowest, weakest predator on the savannah become the most feared animal on the entire planet? The answer is a hunting method so strange, so patient, and so terrifying to other species that scientists gave it its own name: persistence hunting. Here is how it works. Early humans could not catch a gazelle in a sprint. No human ever could. But they did not need to. Instead, a small group of hunters would simply start walking toward an animal. Not running. Walking. And then they would keep walking. For hours. The animal would run away, exhausted, and stop to rest. The humans would catch up and start walking toward it again. This would repeat, over and over, for as long as 6 hours straight, under the hot African sun, until the animal's body, literally, began to shut down from heat. And here is the part that made humans uniquely terrifying. Almost no other land animal on Earth can cool itself the way we can. Most mammals release heat by panting. But panting only works if you stop running. A panting animal cannot sprint and cool down at the same time. A dog chasing a rabbit at full speed is building up heat with nowhere for it to go, which is exactly why predators like cheetahs can only sustain their top speed for a few hundred meters before they have to stop completely, even if the prey is still right in front of them. Humans, on the other hand, sweat. Millions of sweat glands across nearly our entire body, releasing heat constantly, even while we are moving at full speed. We are, biologically speaking, one of the best cooling systems ever produced by evolution, mounted on top of one of the worst sprinting bodies ever produced by evolution. It is a strange trade-off, but it turned out to be devastatingly effective. This means a human can keep moving in extreme heat far longer than almost any other large mammal on the planet, including animals that are faster, stronger, and far more dangerous in a direct confrontation. A horse, despite being dramatically faster than a human over short distances, will actually lose a long-distance race against a human runner in extreme heat because the horse simply overheats first. This is not theoretical. It has been tested directly in organized man versus horse endurance races held annually in Wales, and on hot days, the human regularly wins. So, the hunt was not a chase. It was a slow-motion siege. The animal would overheat. Its muscles would fail. Eventually, it would simply collapse, completely unable to continue, while the humans following it were not even running. Indigenous hunters in places like the Kalahari Desert still use this exact technique today, and researchers have filmed it extensively. A man walks. An antelope sprints away in panic, again and again. And hours later, the antelope is the one lying on the ground, completely exhausted, while the human is still standing, barely out of breath. What is even more remarkable is that these hunters do not just rely on physical endurance. They track using an almost forensic level of observation, reading the depth of a footprint to estimate the animal's weight, the spacing between tracks to estimate its speed, and even subtle changes in the ground to know exactly how recently the animal passed through. Persistence hunting is not just about outlasting an animal physically. It is a combination of extreme patience and extreme attention to detail that very few other species could ever replicate. Now here is where this gets even more unsettling. This was not an isolated trick used by a few small tribes. Anthropologists believe persistence hunting was one of the primary survival strategies that allowed early humans to spread across nearly the entire planet, from dense forests to open grasslands to freezing tundra, even before we had any real weapons. Long before the bow and arrow, long before the spear was perfected, this method alone may have been enough to make humans one of the most successful large predators in history. We did not need to be the strongest. We did not need to be the fastest. We just needed to be willing to keep walking longer than anything else alive. This single advantage may explain something else that has puzzled scientists for decades. Why so many large animal species disappeared shortly after humans arrived in new regions, all around the world, again and again, on nearly every continent, in a pattern researchers now call megafauna extinction. Mammoths, giant sloths, saber-toothed cats, massive flightless birds the size of small cars. One after another, large animals that had never encountered humans before went extinct within just a few thousand years of our arrival in their territory. In some regions, this happened almost immediately after the first evidence of human presence. In others, it took a bit longer, but the pattern repeats, with startling consistency across continents that had no contact with each other. Many of these animals had survived ice ages, sudden climate shifts, volcanic eruptions, and other apex predators for millions of years, without any trouble at all. What they had not survived, in most cases, was an animal that never gave up the chase, and that could coordinate in groups to bring down prey many times its size. This is part of why modern wild animals, even ones that have never personally encountered a human before in their entire lives, still show an instinctive fear response to human shapes and human scent, often stronger than their fear response to almost any other predator, including lions and wolves. Researchers studying this have found that many prey species react to a simple human silhouette with significantly more alarm than they show toward an actual apex predator standing in the exact same spot. In one widely cited study, researchers played recorded human voices through hidden speakers in protected wildlife areas and compared the reaction to recordings of lions roaring in the same locations. Across nearly every species tested, animals fled faster and stayed away longer from the human voices than from the lions. It is not learned behavior in every case, either. In many species, especially those isolated from direct human contact for generations, this fear appears to be at least partly instinctive, encoded over thousands of generations of ancestors who simply did not survive encounters with us, leaving behind only the descendants whose instincts told them to run immediately. There is another detail that makes this even stranger. Researchers studying island species that evolve completely separately from any human contact, places like certain remote Pacific islands, found something very different. Many of these animals showed almost no fear of humans at all when first encountered, simply because their ancestors had never needed to develop that instinct. Famously, this is part of why early sailors who landed on previously untouched islands often described local birds and animals walking right up to them out of pure curiosity, with no fear whatsoever. Tragically, in many of these cases, that complete lack of inherited fear made these populations extremely vulnerable, and several species were wiped out within just decades of first contact, precisely because they had no instinctive reason to run from something so slow and so seemingly harmless. This contrast is almost like a natural experiment proving the theory. Species that evolved alongside early human hunters developed deep, often instinctive fear over thousands of years. Species that evolved in complete isolation from us developed none at all, and paid an enormous price the moment that isolation ended. In a very real sense, you are walking around with a reputation older than written history itself. Every animal that flees from a human silhouette today is reacting to something passed down through countless generations. The memory of an animal that could not be outrun, could not be tired out, and would simply keep coming, no matter how far or how long the chase lasted. We do not think of ourselves as terrifying, who do not have the teeth for it, or the claws, or the raw speed that makes other predators obviously dangerous at a glance. But somewhere in the deep biological memory of nearly every species on this planet, humans are remembered as the predator that broke every rule the natural world had agreed on for millions of years. The one that did not need to be faster, did not need to be stronger, just needed to keep walking, far longer than anything else was ever built to. So the next time you go for a long walk and think nothing of it, remember this. You are doing the exact same thing that once made you the most feared creature in the natural world. Just by being there, just by not stopping, that is still you. So here is a question for you. Did you know about persistence hunting before this video? Drop it in the comments. I genuinely want to know. If this changed the way you think about something as ordinary as walking, that is exactly what this channel does. taking strange, overlooked truths about being human and actually explaining the real science behind them. Subscribe, because next time we are answering a question even stranger than this one. I will see you in the next video.